The police cruiser's lights painted the rainy night in flashes of red and blue. General Lena Pierce sat perfectly still in her sedan, hands resting on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. She'd survived 3 combat tours, negotiated with warlords, and commanded thousands, but nothing prepared her for this moment in her own hometown. Step out of the vehicle. "Ma'am," the officer barked, his hand resting on his holster. As she complied, explaining she was just driving home from visiting her mother, the second officer laughed. "Sure you are. We know your type when—" They clicked the handcuffs around her wrists, the same wrists that had pinned on stars and received medals from presidents. General Pierce made a quiet decision. Their careers ended with her next 6 words. "Get me the Secretary of Defense." The rain fell steadily on the quiet suburban street where Lena had grown up. At 48, she was the youngest 3-star general in the Air Force, home for 24 hours to visit her aging mother before returning to the Pentagon. The traffic stop began as routine. The officers, Sergeant Miller and Officer Davies, claimed she'd swerved. Lena knew better. She'd seen the cruiser follow her from her mother's neighborhood, the predominantly black part of town she'd fought to escape decades ago. "License and registration," Miller demanded, shining his flashlight directly in her eyes. Lena reached for her glove compartment slowly, announcing each movement. "I'm retrieving my registration from the glove compartment," Davies snorted. "She talks like she's on one of those police shows." When Lena handed over her military ID along with her driver's license, Miller barely glanced at it. "Where'd you steal this, sweetheart?" "You don't look like any general I've ever seen." The condescension dripped like the rain from their brimmed hats. Lena remained calm, her voice level. "I'm General Lena Pierce, United States Air Force. I'm currently assigned to—" "Save it," Davies cut her off. "Out of the car, now!" As they patted her down with unnecessary roughness, Lena's composure never cracked. But when Miller produced handcuffs, her tone changed. "Officer, think very carefully about your next action." Miller smirked. "Oh, I am. We're taking you in for resisting arrest and impersonating a military officer." The cuffs clicked shut. Cold, tight, unforgivably familiar. In the back of the police car, Lena watched her hometown pass through rain-streaked windows. The library where she'd first read about Amelia Earhart. The park where she'd dreamed of flying. The police station where her father had once been detained for matching a description. At booking, the desk sergeant took one look at her and sighed. "Miller, Davies, not again!" Lena seized the opportunity. "I need to make one phone call, now!" The sergeant pushed a phone across the counter. "Make it quick." Lena didn't dial a lawyer. She dialed a number she knew by heart, one that bypassed 20 layers of bureaucracy. A crisp voice answered. "Office of the Secretary of Defense, General Lena Pierce, authentication code Sierra November 7902. Threat condition Alpha. Patch me through to Secretary Crow immediately." Silence. Then, "Stand by, General." Miller rolled his eyes. "Good performance." "You almost had me." 30 seconds later, the station phone rang. The desk sergeant answered, his face going pale. "Yes, sir." "Right away, sir." He hung up, staring at Lena with something between awe and terror. "Uncuff her," he whispered. "Now." As the cuffs came off, Lena rubbed her wrists. Too late. Outside, the night erupted with the sound of approaching vehicles. Not police cars, military vehicles. 2 Humvees screeched to a halt in front of the station, armed MPs pouring out. The station door flew open. A full-bird colonel in dress blues stood there, rain plastering his hat to his head. His eyes found Lena. "General Pierce. The secretary is on secure line, too. He's unhappy." Miller finally looked at her military ID properly. His face went slack with horror. "Oh, my God!" Lena picked up the phone. "Mr. Secretary, we have a situation." By morning, the quiet police station was surrounded by news vans. The story had leaked. How could it not? Of the Air Force general handcuffed in her own hometown. Inside, Lena sat with the police chief, the mayor, and a very nervous city attorney. "The officers have been suspended," the chief said, sweating through his uniform. "Not good enough," Lena said calmly. She pushed a file across the table. Sergeant Miller has 12 excessive force complaints. Officer Davies, 8. Your department has settled 4 lawsuits for racial profiling in the past 2 years alone. The mayor stared at the documents. How did you get these? When the Pentagon calls, people answer, Lena said. Now here's what's going to happen. Her terms were precise, military in their execution. 1. All officers would undergo implicit bias training designed by Defense Department psychologists. 2. Body cameras would be mandatory at all times. 3. A civilian review board with real power. 4. Miller and Davies would be terminated and charged. Or, Lena added, I let the Justice Department take over. Your choice. They chose quickly. 3 months later, Lena stood at attention as the Secretary of Defense pinned a new medal on her chest. The ceremony at the Pentagon was packed, but her eyes found her mother in the crowd, weeping quietly. Afterward, the secretary took her aside. You know they're making a training video out of this? How to handle inappropriate law enforcement encounters? Lena smiled faintly. As long as it helps someone else, sir. Back in her hometown, the changes were already visible. The new police chief, a black woman from Chicago, had already implemented half the reforms. The review board included Lena's cousin, a teacher who'd been stopped 5 times in the past year. At her mother's house, the older woman hugged her tightly. Your father would be so proud, she whispered. He always said you'd change things. Lena looked at the photo of her father in his army uniform, a man who'd served his country only to come home to discrimination. The same discrimination she'd faced, despite the stars on her shoulders. Some battles, she realized, weren't fought in distant countries with advanced weapons. They were fought on rainy streets in handcuffs, with nothing but dignity and a phone call as your weapons. And as she returned to the Pentagon, to the maps and strategies and weighty decisions, General Lena Pierce carried a new understanding. That the most important front lines were sometimes the ones you found in your own backyard. If you enjoyed the video, smash the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.